Hi, Tom Patterson with Flying, chatting with CEO and President of Lockwood Aviation Group, Phil Lockwood, designer of the experimental AirCam, two-seat open cockpit, twin engine pusher, a one-of-a-kind airplane. It's kind of exciting to meet you, Mr. Lockwood. I've wanted to meet you for quite some time since I first saw your aircraft at Oshkosh. Thank you so much for joining us. My first question to you is a question that I pose to a lot of the people that I interview. What got you interested in flying?
Hello, Tom. Well, it's great to be here with you today. Um, yeah, so um, I was my parents used to take us up to the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York for summer holiday, and we were staying at a camp up there. And my dad said, "Hey, would you like to go for a seaplane flight?" And of course, I was like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty cool." I don't think I'd been up in a small plane at that time. And so a seaplane came by. I think it was a Cessna 206, and my two younger brothers and I climbed in. I think there was another kid from the camp who wanted to go and climbed in as well. And I was fortunate enough, being the oldest, I guess I got to call my seat, so I was in the front right seat. And I just really loved that flight. It was incredible. I still remember it to this day. I couldn't have been 14 or 15 years old when it happened, but uh, I saw I saw the way the floats came up on plane, and as they came up on the step, and then watched the pilot pull back on the control yoke and rotate for takeoff, and then being able to fly over the lakes and see all the shallow spots from the air because I was boating there and they weren't marked, so that was pretty cool. The whole thing really made a big difference to me.
So it sounds like that experience may have influenced your inspiration to create the AirCam. And the story about how the design was born is a little bit legendary, but I would love to hear you tell it. Could you share that with us?
Sure. So I really enjoyed photography as a kid. Learned how to shoot with film and expose, and learned about depth of field and shutter speed and all that sort of thing. And I was flying for a company called Max Air and doing a lot of open cockpit flying, including some work for the Bartletts in the Namib Desert. So some bush flying out there with them. That was over desert, of course, so you could land almost anywhere. So a single engine airplane was appropriate. And another group came to me wanting to do a special research project in the Ndoki rainforest in North Congo. And of course, that was a different environment. There was really no place to land where they wanted to operate, and no chance of rescue if you went down. They wanted to use the same kinds of planes that I had been using, which were drifters, a plane called the Drifter. And I told them, "Man, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, single engine airplane, you're telling me that there's no place to land other than where we might take off and land out of the base camp, and no chance of rescue if we go down. Those aren't the kind of odds that I really like." So I showed them some drawings I had been working on for the AirCam, and they said, "Okay, build the first one for us." And I gave them a price which was probably unrealistic, and they gave me their time frame, which was also unrealistic. And not knowing any better, I bid on it, and in 6 months we had built the first prototype and took it apart. I shipped it over there in 7 different crates and received it in South Congo, put it all together, flew it across the equator, some 400 miles up to North Congo, and we flew the missions, and it worked. It worked really well.
Who is, in your mind, the typical owner or someone who might purchase an AirCam?
That's a great question. It's quite a diverse group of people that own AirCams, but a significant portion of them are airline pilots. So I think there's a good reason for that. A lot of airline pilots do love to fly, which is a good thing. And they're used to system redundancy. They're used to 2 or more engines. And so that combination of an airplane that is thrilling to fly gives you that great experience and that incredible view up front. And then having the 2 engines and the easy single engine performance is what I think draws them in.
So, how many AirCam aircraft do you think are out there flying today?
Well, we've got just over 300 kits out there now. And so they go together pretty quickly. So I would imagine we've got about 270, 275 AirCams flying.
I believe there's some educational opportunities out there for folks who want to learn more about the AirCam, right? Could you tell us about some of the classes that you run?
Well, we have a flight school here at Lockwood Aviation Group, and we have a LOTA on two of our AirCams, one on floats and one on wheels, and we offer transition training. So that's a great opportunity if you want to come get checked out in an AirCam. That can be done, and we also have a special LOTA which allows us to do multi-sea training in our twin float plane, which we call Chiquita because it's yellow.
All right, that sounds exciting. And also, I believe that you have what are called AirCam Flyouts. Explain how those came together and what those are like.
Sure. Well, of course, flying an AirCam is a lot of fun, and what you're flying over obviously influences the total experience. So we love to go to places that are really offer a great visual experience. Not long ago, we had a trip up to Jekyll Island in Georgia, and that was a lot of fun. We had a great group there. I think we had probably 60 people at our dinner up there that all flew in to join us. Just coming up right here, we have a flight out to the Bahamas in Chub Cay, and that'll be a lot of fun. I think that's the 3rd through the 7th of November, so just right on the doorstep here. And that will be, I think, pretty well attended. It'll be a lot of fun. And then in September of 22, our next one after that will be out in southeastern Utah. And of course, that is a great visual experience. And you're often flying, down in the canyons and right over by buttes, and it's just great. It's really great. But having the two engines really makes it really safe and possible.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because that was leading to my next question. I want to talk about those Rotax engines, the dual capability of those engines, and how they add that extra layer of safety to the design. Could you talk about that a little bit? It's really interesting.
Sure. Well, the power to weight ratio of the 912 ULS and the 912 IS engines really made the AirCam possible. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And they're very reliable engines. It's quite unusual for you to hear of anybody having an engine failure in an AirCam. The engines, they work really well. So having two super lightweight engines that have a great power to weight ratio, of course, the gear reduction drive gives you a very slow prop RPM. That helps make it quiet. We have a good exhaust system. So as you overfly people on the ground, sparsely populated, at least 500 feet away, I mean, they can barely hear you. The airplane is whisper quiet, especially at low speeds, and all that plays into it, making it able to do what it does.
I think I read a story about how you were flying high over some jungle territory, and you realized that if you had a problem, that there was probably not a lot you could do, but you somehow felt pretty comfortable in the platform that you were in because you had that dual engine capability.
Well, that's been the case a number of times, and of course that's why it was developed. But there was a specific story I tell. On the first trip to the Congo, a civil war actually broke out right after I arrived, and the U.S. government made a call to abandon the U.S. embassy, send everybody home, and they asked all Americans to leave the country. And there was a lot of stuff going on, especially in Brazzaville. and all throughout the country because they'd had an election, and a lot of people didn't agree with the outcome of the election. So the outgoing president was taking command of half the military, and he was fighting against the new incoming president, and it was a mess. So I just decided to say I was committed to, we built this airplane, we'd shipped it over there. I was trying to get the plane put together, and I wanted to complete the mission. So I just said, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna get this done. But when we loaded up the plane with fuel, we had 6 hours of fuel. And when I took off and I was flying in that airplane, that's really when I felt the safest, because I knew I had my space, and that airplane was going to keep me safe. And it wasn't until I landed it next time that I was going to be in danger. You never know what's going to happen when you're on the ground.
Time is short, so I only have one more question. I didn't want to let you get away without asking you what's next. With such a ingenious design and unique design as the AirCam, I think a lot of people would like to know what's next from the mind of Phil Lockwood.
The AirCam has room to run, and we have some very exciting R&D programs going on that involving the AirCam and some on other projects. I can't give details for those, but I can tell you that we do continue to improve the kit. We do continue to improve the manuals, which are already very good. And we have a new, a tow hook that we're working on for the maul tail wheel. That's always been a complaint customers have had, is you can't latch onto that maul tail wheel and move the airplane around very easily. So we're developing a new system that will allow you to do that, and we'll continue to have these AirCam Flyouts, which actually take quite a bit of work on our part to put those together, but people love them.
All right, Phil Lockwood, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real thrill to meet you. Thank you very much to AirCam designer Phil Lockwood, and also thank you for watching. I'm Tom Patterson with Flying.
Thanks, Tom.